Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this month's webinar. My name is Russ Yerk, along with Laura Peterson here at the national office. I am the person that leads the day-to-day operations for the bid cycle. So we all thought it was a good opportunity. We've got a little bit of lead time from where we stand right now to start talking about the bid cycle. We'll run through some key deadlines, some best practices, and some things like that. Just a couple housekeeping items. This full recording will be available by the end of the week on ncaa.org. And if you have questions, please use the Q&A chat feature. Laura is tracking on those, so we will make sure to get to those either throughout the presentation, or we'll circle back at the end to make sure we've got everything covered. So just to kind of give you some basics of what is the bid cycle, every predetermined championship site, which includes preliminary and final sites, will be available for bid later this summer. So that's 86 of the 90 NCAA championships. That equates to about 125 sites annually. We'll be placing hosts for the 26-27 academic year through 29-30. So we're working down the road just a little bit. And the four that are not included are Men's and Women's College World Series, Division III Women's Ice Hockey, and FCS football. Slide. Thank you. So looking back, this is the second bid cycle that I've led for the NCAA. Looking back at our bid cycle that wrapped up in 2020, we had over 3,000 bids submitted from 46 states and the District of Columbia. We awarded about 460 sites at that point. Divisions 1 and 3 cross-country regionals were not awarded at that time, and I'll hit on that topic a little bit later in the presentation. So what's our timeline? The bid cycle itself will open on July 19th. So that means the bid portal will open and the bid specs will be published for each of the championships that are available. On August the 29th, that's a Tuesday, we'll be hosting a symposium here at the NCAA National Office, open to anyone that is interested in bidding on the NCAA championships. It's free of charge, and we'll touch on that in a second. The bid portal will close on February the 7th, so the process will be open for over 6 months. So there's a fairly long runway from opening to close, to work on those bids and get everything submitted. And then host sites will be announced October 2nd of 2024. So we're really about a year and a half from now when the sites will be announced publicly. So the host symposium, if you haven't attended in the past, as I mentioned, August the 29th here in Indianapolis, it's a full day essentially of NCAA Championship Hosting 101. We'll start out the day with a general session, and then really we spend the rest of the day in breakout sessions that are really designed for you, the bidder, to get a deeper understanding of particular topics. So obviously we do divisional breakouts, we do hotels, bid portal, education, budgets. We'll do breakouts on some of the equity championships like a Frozen Four, D1 men's wrestling, etc. The best feature that I've gotten feedback on is champ manager availability. So we will set up the champ managers in the atrium of the building, and they are available all day from 10 to 4, just on a walk-up basis to talk about their championships. We did it for the first time last bid cycle, and it was just hugely well received. And we will do the same this go around. Only requirement, you must register to attend. That link will be live next Monday, April the 10th at ncaa.org/bids, and we'll talk about that. We'll have that website up in a minute, but all you need to do is register. We'll feed you lunch, and it's a great day to learn about hosting NCAA championships. So just a few pictures from the last symposium we hosted here at the NCAA. Room on the left, we were pretty much at capacity. I think we had right around 200 people register for the day. Photo on the right is the champ manager availability, also hugely popular. There was a crowd pretty much at every table throughout the day. So huge thanks to all the champ managers that made that possible. So you've noticed, we went through the timeline. It's kind of a very long runway from now until October. So once the bids are submitted next February, the immediate thing that happens is staff review. So the champ managers continue their review of those bids. Myself and some of the others on the bid process team, we also look at the bids working with our NCAA travel staff, with Anthony Travel, and start doing just a little bit of analysis based on hey, what would it cost a typical championship to, for us to get 4 or 8 teams to a particular site? What do the hotel rates look like and that destination and that time of year? After that, the sport committees review and make their decision and recommendation, typically in the summer, at the conclusion of the winter and spring championship season. Committee meetings, this will be a major agenda part for them. And then those recommendations go forward to the oversight, respective oversight committees for final approval. That'll happen around late August of 2024, gives us then about 4 weeks to prepare for the public announcement in October. So what are the keys to a successful bid? So let's take a look at those real quick. So the first bullet, and regardless of the audience that I speak to, this first bullet is the most important one, and I always take a moment to stress that. Creation of a meaningful student-athlete experience. Just like all of you on campus, our focus, if we had to boil it down to really one thing out of all of this, is that student-athlete experience. How can we make this memorable? How can we make what most likely is the most important, largest stage that any of our student athletes have competed on? How do we make it even more special? So jumping down into some of the nuts and bolts, obviously adherence to the bid specifications is key. Your proposed facilities and competitive budget and grants. And grants would come from your local CVB or sports commission. And we'll talk about those a little bit later. Obviously, adherence to the NCAA core values and principles. Commitment from hosts. It's happened to me personally. If someone bids on a championship and you kind of get out on site and all of a sudden you kind of feel like, hey, they kind of wish we weren't there. And I think our best experiences as championship managers and then delivering that student athlete experience are from those hosts that are just, extremely excited to have us on campus, show off their facilities, things like that. Obviously, competitive pricing in those 3 areas, facilities, travel, and lodging, are key. Facilities really is probably the one that you have the most control over. Travel and lodging, a little bit out of your control, obviously, depending on, what's happening in the industry. As you guys know, travel costs right now, for example, have continued to creep up. Geographic location is also important. Obviously, proximity, traditional participants. So for us in the D3 world, Midwest, Northeast typically is going to be sort of the sweet spot. We also look at climate, primarily for fall championships. As we look to, late November into early and mid-December, climate, obviously, for soccer, for example, can be a big determining factor. And on the team lodging front, what we're looking for is recommendations from you all for the hotels that you already use. We're looking for properties that are team friendly. We have a high need for doubles, proximity to the venue, places that just get team travel, right? They're not freaked out when a bus pulls up and 20 to 30 student athletes get off with luggage and equipment bag and things like that, where they're excited and welcoming. And then obviously we talked about it a little bit earlier, the competitive rates. So sitting here early April, what are our next steps? So first off, my recommendation would be develop your hosting strategy. What do your facilities and your schedules look like on your own campus? What's traditionally something that maybe you've hosted in the past? You've hosted a conference, tournament, or meet. Those are the types of things we want to stick with. Things that you've got great experience. Talk to your local sports commission and CVB. I often get calls and spend a lot of time talking with folks on that side of the industry, and they say, "Hey, Russ, my local university doesn't, they don't seem real interested in working with me." I can't stress enough, reach out to them. That's a great avenue for additional sets of hands, access to volunteers, grant money we talked about a moment ago. Many of these organizations have either local or state funds that are earmarked for bringing in special events. They all have slightly different qualifications, but definitely reach out to your local sports commission and CVB, and if you don't already have a great relationship, continue to develop that. Any facilities, either new or upgrades in the pipeline that are being discussed. Those are big factors, and definitely not a deterrent for us. If you've got an upgrade or a new facility, you can give us a timeline of, hey, shovels in the ground will happen here. We should be open for business. We quite often will award a site to a location that hasn't been either completed, or in some cases, it makes us a little nervous, hasn't begun construction yet. Create or update your profile. So on championships.ncaa.org, that's the link. You'll keep hearing the term bid portal. That's how you access the bid portal. If you've got login credentials already, just pop in there, update some of the contact folks. Maybe you've had some staff turnover, added some new staff over the last couple of years. Refresh that. If you need a profile, just under the login credentials area, you'll see a create profile link. Jump in there, click on that, and typically those are approved in 24 hours and often much less. And then research and attending current championships. Lean on your coaches, lean on your student athletes. If they've attended a championship, a particular round or even a final site, talk to them a little bit about their experiences, do some idea generation, help you get a bigger understanding of kind of the full scope and, what resonated with our student athletes. So a few resources. First off, you'll see the one with the red star, ncaa.org/bids. That's our landing page for everything bid related. So if you were to log in today, you will see all the bid specs from the last cycle. So I've asked that those remain up as a resource over the last couple of years. We'll continue to leave those up. I may shift those and link from that page, but those will be available right up until the new bid specs publish. The QR code on the right side of the screen will take you to that website. Bid specs obviously are being updated. There'll be some tweaks. We're going to add some more information, go a little bit more in depth on some things that I think will help everyone on your side to make the bidding process a little bit easier. But the nuts and bolts of what are needed, the venues, hotel rooms, things like that will largely remain very, very similar or unchanged. So feel free to jump in there if you're looking for, hey, do we have the capabilities of hosting such and such? Use that as a starting point. A moment ago, I referenced championships.ncaa.org. That's your link to the bid portal. And a few others that I guide, typically those outside the membership too a little bit, but ncaa.org/championships. There you can link to each of the individual championship pages. You can get host manuals, typically for preliminary rounds and things like that, but there's just really good information that's available there. And ncaapublications.com, great source for downloading the most up-to-date rule book. Obviously, you can download the Division III manual there if needed. As you go through the old bid specs and you're working your way through, and if you're kind of looking through and you're like, hey, we're good here, we're good here, we're good here, I'm not sure if we're good here, what I would encourage you to do is not deselect yourself from the process. Please reach out to me and let's talk it through. Let's see if we can find a solution or a workaround. If there's something where, hey, it's okay if you don't have enough widgets here, I think we can work around that. My contact info will be available on the last slide, but please use me as a resource. If you get real technical, you need to be connected with the championship manager. I can absolutely do that for you as well. So a few hosting myths. Sometimes these are things that I hear from definitely outside the membership, but I also hear from some of our member institutions. So the first one of those is, hey, we're going to lose money. Second one is it's too much work. And the last one is too much competition. So let's jump in that we'll lose money. So what you see right here, I know this is a tough slide, definitely not an ideal slide, but what you see right here is an actual budget after the fact of a predetermined championship in the last couple of years. Much the same way that you'll submit a budget for a preliminary round, all D3 championships have a reimbursable budget process. So I'll spare you kind of all the nitty gritty, but essentially, the budget you submit with your bid, if it's selected and approved, as long as you live within that budget, you'll be reimbursed for all those out-of-pocket expenses on the back end. So what you'll see at line 10, what I circled is amount to be sent to host agency. So in this scenario, gross receipts, the actual disbursements, kind of work our way through the math. This host received a check for a little over $29,600. Built into that is an honorarium for you, the host. So it really is designed to kind of be a break-even proposition. No one should ever lose money. If something comes out of left field, hopefully not another pandemic or something along those lines, something that you just didn't anticipate, you can work with your championship manager, and most often we can find a solution, for something that just wasn't accounted for. So the next myth is it's too much work. Working with your championship manager and the sport committee, we really have tried to develop a system that reduces the burden on any host, be it institutional or external to the membership. So host manuals, very detailed host manuals with checklists and timelines to help you map out your kind of entire planning process leading up to the event. Hotels. So we work with On Location, or you may know them as Anthony Travel. Anthony Travel, they handle everything. So they'll handle the contracting. You really just kind of give us those recommendations. The process of working through the contracts and all of that piece of it is handled for us. Equipment. The NCAA handles all the sports equipment and sideline equipment, right? So balls, pucks, sport court, you name it for the field of play, that's provided. And the sideline equipment, coolers, ice chests, water bottles, all of those are provided also by the NCAA. Awards, signage, even marketing support. We've got kind of a basic package, can provide you with graphics, 30-second video spots, those types of things to help you on the promotional effort. And then even right up through game scripts. So, from the time that teams arrive on site, throughout the day, what announcements need to be made based on our updated champions and partners list, things like that. All of those are provided by your championship manager. So there's a number of boxes that I think we're able to check for you to help reduce, the burden of hosting. And there's too much competition. So you're thinking, Russ, you said earlier there were 3,000 bids received last cycle. That is absolutely true. But as we look at all of the sites in the totality, 21 of the championships average 5 bids or fewer per year. That's almost a quarter of what's available. Specifically for today's discussion, D3 men's basketball, for example, in 2024 had 3 bids. You may have heard me mention earlier that the Division III cross-country regionals weren't awarded at the same time as all of the other sites last bid cycle. They averaged about 5 bids per year. 8 sites are needed. So we didn't even have enough, had the regions worked out just perfectly, we didn't even have enough to award at that time. And Division III men's ice hockey in 24 and 25 had 2 bids each. So what I always tell prospective bidders is, please don't assume that each championship, each bid is getting 15, 20, 25 RFPs. That absolutely is not the case. There's definitely I feel a championship out there for every community and every campus. And some of the reasons to host, I think, promoting your campus, promoting your city, showcasing facilities. It's a great opportunity to bring people to your campus, to your facilities. Maybe it's, maybe there's a 9th grader, an 8th grader out there locally that may show up on your doorstep one day, and he or she will remember coming to a championship on your campus. Service to fellow NCAA members. Without all of you, we can't do what we do on this end. So it's important to have campuses and have that collegiate feeling when national championships are awarded. Supporting the sport. Yeah, there are some that get plenty of bids, but when you start looking at some of the Olympic sports, the men's volleyballs of the world and things like that, they're growing, they're emerging, having great viable partners to host those championships. Not only supports the championship itself, but really helps the sport as a whole. Competitive advantage. Definitely talk to your coaches. If you told them that, hey, you've got a chance to compete for a regional or a national championship on your gym, your rink, on your course, would they be in favor of that? And I think most of them, to a person, would say they absolutely would. I think there's probably some recruiting things, again, showcasing your facilities. Bringing those kids to campus is big. And then for your partners locally, for the CVB or Sports Commission, it helps fill hotel rooms. And there are some windows of time for our championships, specifically, you look at the fall, typically between Thanksgiving and Christmas. For the most part, everywhere across the country, that's really a dead period. Not a lot of people traveling during those weeks, and it's an opportunity to help out locally in what normally might be a slower time in the hotel side. Gang, if you want to reach out to me, separately, my contact info is on this slide. Always available to kind of talk you through the process. We can cover best practices, things like that.